Did he say 25%?
Yeah, 25.
What's up, guys? I wanted to make a Arcane Mage guide, pretty much. I'm going to go over everything that you really need to know about Arcane. Arcane right now is actually probably the most powerful spec in the game. When it comes to if a fight doesn't really include a heavy movement and you can stand still for periods of time, really nothing can beat Arcane. And ultimately, I think that's the way the spec should be played, right? So obviously, Arcane loses a lot of DPS the more you move. But that being said, we do have some ways to counter that, and then our burst is actually really insane. So I'm going to go over talents, glyphs, stats, and then rotation real quick. So what I want to go over talent-wise, okay, Ice Flows is by far the number one most important on Tier 15. The reason it's so important is because obviously you can cast on the move, and being able to cast on the move, whether it be move out of things, stay in your rune of power, whatever it might be, this just makes you not have to lose your rotation, not have to lose all that DPS, keep your stacks high, everything. There's just so many benefits to having Ice Flows, right? So that's why we want it. As far as level 30 Ice Barrier, again, I still think it's worth the global cooldown. There are some people who have started to use Flame Glow a little bit, but I don't like it. I like having that barrier that I know I can call on demand whenever I need it. Again, 45 doesn't matter, it's PvP. 60, again, based on encounter, so you can really do it any way you want. There are some, because this does, Cold Snap does reset Presence of Mind, there is a slight DPS increase, obviously, to being able to do that. The problem is it still costs a global to get in and out of your ice block. So I don't know. It's a nice heal. It's nice because you have double block. But again, for most fights, I just stick with Cauterize. Greater Viz, obviously, if you need to negate things, is really good for that. Level 75, this is where the priority comes a little bit into play here. So stat priority, Supernova with Prismatic Crystal is super overpowered. It hits like a truck, and that's where most mages you'll see just do tons of burst damage is the Supernova Prismatic Crystal combo. So this is where it gets tricky, though. So mainly, and I'm going to go into this real quick, but your stat priority is typically Mastery, and then depending on this row of talents, depends on whether you want Multi-Strike or Haste, okay? They're pretty equal. But if you're using Supernova, Multi-Strike does come out a little bit ahead. If you're using Haste, Nether Tempest does come up a little bit ahead. Now, also if you're using Haste, Overpowered comes into effect too. Nether Tempest, obviously, the more haste, the more ticks, but also the more cast time, the longer you can have this up. And Nether Tempest and Supernova can both proc a Arcane Missile, so remember that. Really, Overpowered works well with Nether Tempest. You don't really want to use Overpowered with Supernova. It just doesn't work the same. Those are kind of the combos that you want to use. So Overpowered is very good, but that being said, Prismatic Crystal is just insane burst, and I'll show you in a minute. As far as level 90 goes, really most people are between Incanter's Flow or Rune of Power. I prefer Rune of Power because, again, as Arcane, your goal is to stand still as much as possible. So obviously, if you're trying to stand still, Rune of Power makes your life a lot easier. You get that consistent spell power boost as opposed to Incanter's Flow. It's kind of hit or miss. And then Mirror Images is, well, it's Mirror Images. It's not terrible, it's not great. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. But again, before I get into glyphs, the stat priority right now, again, is Mastery. And then if you're using Nether Tempest primarily, you want Haste. If you're using Multi-Strike, you want Supernova. So that's kind of how it works. But they're both very close to each other. And then after those, it goes Crit, then Verse. So Verse being our worst stat. So be aware of that. That's kind of the hard part about it. Now, as far as glyphs go, though, again, Arcane Explosion, really good. You do not want to use Arcane Power unless you're using Overpowered. Okay, if you're using Overpowered, the talent, then you want to use Arcane Power. If you're not using Arcane or Overpowered, you don't want to use Arcane Power because Prismatic Crystal will line up with every Arcane Power if you don't use the glyph. So keep that in mind. Cone of Cold, obviously big damage boost, very nice for AoE situations and to slow enemies. Again, it's your choice after that. Rapid Displacement, slow, spell steal, you name it, or even remove curse has some ability somewhere. So glyphs really don't matter, as they never do, right? They're more how you want to do it. I typically tend to stay towards AoE, and because I typically use Prismatic Crystal and Supernova, that's what I'm going to use. So that's kind of how I do things. So as far as rotation goes, what we want to do is, let's see if I can do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just show you quickly how we want to do our rotation. So ultimately, what we want to do is if we do a 10-second countdown, typically 8 seconds in, We want to put down our runes wherever we're typically going to move in the beginning of the fight. And then from there, we want to get to 4 stacks as quickly as possible. Remember, we want to save Supernova, and we want to save our Presence of Mind, and I'll show you why in a minute. So what we want to do is at 3 seconds, we pop our potion, and we're going to 2, 1, we're pulling. We get that right out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do this, see if I can get it an actual proc. Okay, I didn't get a proc, but I'm going to pop this anyway. So I pop all my cooldowns, double that out, and now I'm just going to burn. So watch my timer on the crystal. As soon as I hit down to 1 second, I'm going to pop my Presence of Mind, pop 1 more out, and then if I'm above 70%, I'm going to use my missile procs. If I'm below 70%, I'm going to wait till 50%, and then I'm going to evocate. Okay, as soon as I back up to 100, I'm going to go right back into my rotation. And again, if I'm above 90% mana, I can cast my Arcane Blast. If I'm not, I should have used Supernova there. So again, the main thing that you want to do is make sure that you have your Supernova as you get into your burst phase. You really want to be able to use 2 Supernovas per crystal. So that's the most important thing the entire time. And then obviously your conservation phase, if you're below 90% mana, you're just going to do that. And you're just going to go 4 stacks and then blast them off. 4 stacks, blast them off. And that's pretty much how you're going to work. Obviously, once you get to 4 stacks, use any missile procs. And then, like now, so I have 3. Obviously, I'm going to get way high in mana again. So I'm just going to cast 1 more Arcane Blast. And now I'm at 2 procs again. Okay, but I'm at 15 seconds left. So I'm going to knock one of these Supernovas out just to get it resetting. So I have 10 seconds left before I can use any of my stuff. So I'm staying at 4 stacks pretty well here, getting a lot of good missile procs. Still above 90%. Going to cast 1 more blast, then get it off. And now my cooldowns are coming back up. So here's what we're going to do again. I only have 1 missile proc so far. What we're going to do, put down the crystal, pop the cooldowns, blast off both of my stacks of that, my missile procs, and again, Presence of Mind is up, 2, 1. I'm going to try to get it one more time. Bam. There we go. And now I'm back in there. So I didn't quite get it off, but again, remember, if we're above 70% during our burst phase, we want to cast all our missile procs until below 70%. Once we're below 70%, so right now I would cast this one, and then I'm going to burn all the way down to 50. Okay, I'm not going to cast that one. Okay, 50%, evocate, and now we're back into our normal rotation. So again, that's just pretty much the rotation right now. So obviously your AoE rotation, you're going to use things like your Arcane Explosion. So you run in your Arcane Explosion. Now you can get stacks up. I typically, once I get to 3 missile stacks, I'll drop 1 off just to regen some mana. Obviously using Supernova, using Cone of Cold, all are huge DPS increases for you. And obviously you're going to do more damage when you have 4 stacks. So once you're at 4 stacks Arcane, you can see that your mana goes down quite a bit. So if you need to recharge your mana, you can always just throw some of those missile procs out. Spam your Arcane Explosion, spam your Cone of Cold on cooldown, and you're pretty much just going between that. So that's typically your rotation, guys. Again, if you have any other questions, let me know. But for the most part, Arcane is actually really, really powerful in almost every situation. Obviously, big AoE packs are really, really good. We have good cleave with Arcane Barrage. We have good burst with Prismatic Crystal and Supernova. Overall, we're very, very good. Unless there's a fight that really includes a ton of movement, then we start to see a drop off a little bit. But if for most fights, any patchwork style fight, you should not be beaten. If you're equal geared with everybody else, you should be on top of the meters. And your job should be to just pummel damage into a boss. So, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys like this one. And as always, see you in the next one.